us gathered in the fellowship hall to watch the movie The Wizard of Oz on the relatively big screen. And it had been many years since I've actually sat and watched it with some intention. And it's one of these brilliant movies that every time you watch it, I think you will learn something different. When you're a child, it's a child's movie. When you're an adult, it's an adult's movie. There is something for it for every age, and I think that's what makes it so brilliant. So if you haven't watched the movie recently, I would invite you to consider just renting it on pay-per-view or something and see what you gather from the movie. Is there anyone who has never seen the movie The Wizard of Oz? Right. Yeah. Then you actually support the research that says that apparently this is the most watched movie of all time. Wow. It was released in 1939, just a few years after Technicolor had been released and invented. And they take full advantage of that black and white to color power within the movie. And so today, and for the next 3 weeks after today, we're going to spend some time exploring the movie. Because what we know in unity and what we believe in our lives in general is that any story that happens on the outside, including movies, including books, has characters that resonate and actually live to some extent within us. And I don't mean for that to sound creepy. What I mean by that is that the reason that story is so powerful is because we identify with the characters. They help us to touch something emotionally within us. And so what we can learn from some of these stories, and particularly a story like The Wizard of Oz, is how characters can play within our own heads and within our lives outside of us as we journey on our own trip to Oz as we try to make our way home. So today we're going to explore the yellow brick road, the idea of this journey that we're on. Some of you may have heard of Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. And for those of you who have, and those of you who haven't, what Joseph Campbell did is he realized that there was a power in myth and story that we all relate to. And many of them have a very similar themes. And we see this in this movie. So I may refer a little bit to this idea of the hero's journey, or in this case, the shero's journey, as I speak. So just keep that in mind. The first thing we see in the story is that everything is going along pretty smoothly. Life is as normal in Kansas. Kind of a boring existence for young Dorothy Gale, but she lives on the farm with her aunt, her uncle, and there are some farm hands who help to work the farm. And she longs for something more. So she goes and she tries to engage each of the people on the farm. She tries to speak to her uncle and her aunt. They're too busy. They're taking care of this. And she tries to speak to the farm hands, and they kind of shove her off because they need to get their work done as well. And so this innocent girl is left wishing that she had a little bit more joy in her life. And so that starts our journey. How does that relate to us? Well, sometimes we're just going through life every day, doing the same thing, doing the same thing. And there's a little part of us in the back of our minds, a little Dorothy Gale, wishing that there was something more. Sometimes we see that in a job that we may be in that isn't fulfilling, or a relationship that we're in that isn't fulfilling. Something that's good enough but doesn't really bring us a lot of joy. That's the parallel to this part of that story. Now, I'm going to guess that she's been thinking and feeling this sort of sadness for a long time. And it just keeps growing by the time we meet her. Kind of like us, when we're in a place where we're feeling this sort of dis-ease about something that might not be sitting quite right. And we know it, and we let it be. And we know it, and we let it be. But in our minds, we're always wishing for that rainbow. We're always wishing for just a little bit more greatness. And isn't really that what our life is all about? Is to evolve and to expand and to seek greater abundance in all of our lives. So Dorothy goes off and she sings the song that we will sing later, Have No Fear, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. But she's still, Dorothy, she's going to do her own thing. Going to keep being the little girl on the farm. And what happens, though, and this is something that Campbell, in his hero's journey story, says, is there comes a time where there becomes a crisis. There's something that is a compelling call to action, and nothing can stop it. And that happens because Dorothy's beloved dog, who is her only true companion in the world, has bitten a neighbor. Gasp! Ooh, that sounded louder. Good technique. And the neighbor has come to the family, Annie M, and said, I need to get rid of this dog. And they all say, no, no, no. And of course, the woman takes the dog because that's the law. So Dorothy's beloved Toto ends up getting taken away. In that quintessential picture that I remember as a child of this mean-looking woman with this basket behind her and this dog sticking out of the basket. And that in itself is scary. But then what happens is Toto gets out and runs away. And when he runs away, he comes back to Dorothy and he finds Dorothy, and Dorothy realizes that now she has to run away, otherwise her joy will be taken away as well. So she runs away, and she runs into a traveling medicine man, Dr. Marble. And he pretends to be a fortune teller. And of course, while her eyes are closed, he sneaks a picture. He takes a look inside her basket because she's running away, so she has all her worldly belongings with her. And he sees that she has an aunt or a woman beside her in the photo. And he says, oh, somebody loves you and I see somebody's crying. So he ends up sending her back. Not quite sending her back, but allowing her the decision of, oh, I have to go home to my love. I realize that I'm loved, and even though I want to go out on my own, I need to do it I need to go back home. So this sets in motion, though, a path that she will never go back from. Because in the time that she's run away, a storm has brewed, and a tornado is coming. They can't find her. The family goes into the shelter. The farmhands go into the shelter. But by the time Dorothy gets home, she can't get into the shelter. And she stays in the house and gets knocked unconscious. And chaos ensues. How does that work for us? How does this story, this part of the story, work for us? Well, when we finally made this decision of, I have to do this or my joy will be taken away from me, your life has changed. Nothing will be the same. And at times, it can feel like your life is topsy-turvy as you're going through these changes. As you've even made the decision and gone, yes, I have to do this. As soon as that happens, our lives go into this vortex of change. And we create it on the outside, but oh my goodness, is it not also going on the inside? So, Dorothy gets turned upside down in this whirlpool, in this vortex of energy. And when she lands over the rainbow. It's stepping over the threshold into something completely new. And this is where that magic of technology happened in the movie itself, because it goes from black and white sepia tone to this brilliant color. A reminder that when we actually make that change, we do move from that place of maybe not necessarily even dis-ease, but certainly comfortable boringness, into something new and exciting and vibrant. We're not in Kansas anymore. So now, while she lands there, as soon as she lands there, she realizes that things are going to be different for her. I'm trying to create a paperweight here. And so, she discovers that there are some friends. And this also is part of that hero's journey that Campbell talks of. That once you've made the decision and you've stepped out into the craziness of the unknown, there will be teachers and friends and supports that magically seem to appear. And so we have the Lullaby League and the Lollipop Guild. And we have the Good Witch, Glinda, the Witch of the North, who gives Dorothy, thank you, Barb, ruby slippers that were on forgot to tell you this part. The house that she's on lands on the Wicked Witch of the East, who has the power in her slippers. So Dorothy gets the slippers, and Glinda sends her off on the yellow brick road so that she can find her way home. Just know that once we have made a decision, whatever the decision might be, whether it's something as small a vortex as should I go here or here today, or if it's as big as I don't know whether or not I should quit this job, or I should move to this city, or if I should end this relationship. Whatever those big vortexes are, once we've made the step, support shows up. And we find that there are companions that start to join us along the way. We get strength, courage, heart and brain. And sometimes we don't know which way to go. And that's where those beings can help us. Those friends can help us. Those support groups can help us. However, let's not pretend that it's not scary, because it really, really, really can be. And so what happens is, in the story, the Wicked Witch of the West is really upset because Dorothy landed on her sister, who is the Wicked Witch of the East, and she wants those slippers. In fact, I found a slide, I have to share it with you. It says, the ultimate chick flick. 2 women fighting over a pair of red shoes. That was awesome. Anyway. So we have these scary things that happen. How does this relate to us? Well, what it is for us is, once we've made that step and we can see the potential and we can see the hope and we can see that if we follow this journey, there's something great. And Oz, a land of Oz that's over there. And we can take our friends with us, and we can take our companions with us, and we know we have all the support from our shoes and from the well-being of the little beings in our minds. Still, fear is real. It's scary. And so we do experience it. We experience those flying monkeys in our mind. We experience the witch trying to take that all away and send you back. And what's to be done when that happens? You just keep going. You just keep going. You follow that yellow brick road. And then you see it. It's almost there. But there's this field of poppies that the Wicked Witch has laid down. And poppies smell nice, maybe, I don't know. But of course, they put Dorothy to sleep. And isn't it true that sometimes when we're on our journey, we get to a certain point and then we allow ourselves to be distracted. We allow ourselves to become overcome by the fears that might be hidden within us. And so we might turn to things like addiction, which allow us to lose sight of our odds. We might find ourselves deciding that at this point, maybe it's not such a bad idea just to rest and never quite make it. And what happens in the story is that the Tin Man, the heart, and the Scarecrow, the brain, the intellect, wake Dorothy up and pull her. And then Glinda comes along and makes it winter, calms everything down, freezes everything, and they wake up. What that says for me is that when we're walking our little journey, sometimes isn't that little, and we can see the joy and the happiness that is right there, just around the corner, how often do we allow ourselves to be put to sleep at that point? Maybe because of fears of not being worthy. Maybe because of any one of a number of different distractions. But at that point, that's where we want to resist and freeze dry all of those thoughts, so that our heart and our intellect can wake us back up and bring us forward and out, focusing with single-minded focus on Oz. So what is Oz? Oops, did I go one too far? I did. Oz. Let me just read you the theme song of Oz, because it tells you everything you need to know about Oz. Ha ha ha, ho ho ho, and a couple of tra-la-las. That's how we laugh the day away in the merry old land of Oz. Wouldn't it be awesome if we lived our life in a place where all we did all day was ha ha ha, ho ho ho, and a tra-la-la-la-la? Laughing every day away? We can. How much fun would that be, and why not? And we may, once in a while, we get there and we touch it. We touch that place. We touch that place of, wow, this is awesome. It's like a transcendent experience. And then we normally find a way to sabotage it, don't we? So Dorothy gets to the land of Oz, and she gets to the wizard, and the wizard says, and of course the wizard has no real power, or does he? That's for another week. He says, go and get the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West, which he's really just playing for time. But what does the broom represent for the Wicked Witch of the West is her power, her ability to show up anywhere. So off they go to face their biggest fear. And they go into this scary, haunted forest. Scary. And they meet the witch. I don't like this forest. It's dark and creepy. I don't like this forest. It's dark and creepy. I think it will get darker before it gets lighter. Is that not always true? Do you suppose we will meet any wild animals that will eat straw? Mostly lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Nonetheless, they get taken to the witch's lair. And the witch is going to kill Dorothy. And her friends come and save her. But the witch knows that the biggest fear that the straw man has is fire. So she starts to light him on fire. And Dorothy grabs water and pours it at the straw man, saving the straw man's life. And what she doesn't realize is that that's what melts the witch. Don't need much rocket science to figure out the metaphysics and metaphor in that. In saving one in love, she melted away the darkness. She melted away the fear because love trumps fear. So, they get back to the wizard, who hopefully now has figured out what he's going to do with these people, assuming that they came back. And he gives them each a reward. And the reward is what their heart was longing for all along. Courage. Heart. Intellect. The brain. And when those get combined, Dorothy gets to go home. And when she gets to go home, she realizes that she has a new awareness. She realizes that she has much more richness than she gave any understanding for. She says there were things that were scary in this journey, but most of it was beautiful. That's our life. There are things that scare us in our journey, but most of it is beautiful. And so, as we, in the next 3 weeks, delve deeper, next week we'll talk about some of the characters and how they are us. The following week, we'll talk about the 10 men, the cowardly lion, and the scarecrow, and about how those aspects of courage, of intellect, and of heart within us are powerful companions for us on our journey. And we'll end the 4th week with favorite quotes and how there is no place like home. And so, as we continue today and this week on our Yellow Brick Road journey, consider, if you will, some of what I've spoken about. How at times it can be scary. Knowing that there is support, both outside in our community and within. You have resources within you. Know that there are things that threaten to distract you from your joy, from your land of ha ha ha. And know that if you can pour snow on them, if you can somehow get their temperature down so that they don't distract you, we're not saying that we're going to destroy it or pretend it doesn't happen. But if we can distract that so that it's low, so that we can continue to be focused on our journey to ours. We know that our love will overcome fearful appearances. And when we do, we know we will come out of every journey, be it a short one day or a lifetime, or in between. We will come out with a new awareness that we had more resources than we thought we had, that it was scary, but overall it was pretty good. And that is our journey as we follow the yellow brick road.